Okay guys, let's get right to it. This video is on how to solve quadratic equations by completing the square. So this is a procedure that I'm going to teach you. So two examples. So our first example, okay? So the first thing you want to do is we're going to make this side into a perfect square, and I'll explain what that means a little bit later. Right now I'm going to teach you the procedure. Right now this is not a perfect square. There's no binomial that you can square and get this trinomial. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to move the 51 on the other side. We get x squared plus 14x. That's gone. I'm going to go ahead and leave a blank here. Equals 51. And then I'm going to put a blank here. Okay? So notice what I did first. I took that constant and I moved it over to the other side. And in its place, I left a blank. So next thing we're going to do is, now this is procedure. Okay? So we're going from, this is standard form. Standard form. We're going to go to vertex form. If you've forgotten what vertex form looks like, it looks like this. Excuse me. We're going to change forms. Going from standard form, which looks like this, to vertex form. So first thing we do is we're going to put down the parentheses. We're changing forms. Then the x. Now in order to get h, we're going to take half of the b value. Again, in order to find our h value right here, we're going to take half of the b value. So 14 divided by 2 is 7. So it's going to be x, and we keep the sign, so x plus 7. Keep the sign. So if this had been x squared minus 14x, it would be minus 7 here. Okay? Then we put the square on. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to fill in these blanks up here. So to do that, we square the 7. So 7 squared is 49. Again, 7 squared, which is 7 times 7, is 49. So since we added 49 on the left, we're going to add 49 on the right. And we end up with 100. Now, we're going to solve this equation just like we did on Monday. We're going to solve for x. We have completed the square. See the square? That means that this times this is this. We made a perfect square. Okay, so let's solve this. So we're going to have x plus 7 squared equals 100. So we're going to square root both sides. We get x plus 7 equals, don't forget the plus and minus, the square root property. Square root of 100 is 10. Okay, subtract the 7 on both sides. X equals 3. When we use the positive 10, the principal root, and when we use the negative 10 minus 7, we get negative 17. And those are your solutions for this problem using completing the square procedure. Okay, now this is when the a value is 1. Let's look at an example where the a value is not 1. Okay, let's look at a more complicated one. Here the a value is not 1, so this has a special step. The first step is to divide the 8 out of the first two terms. So you know what, let's back up just a second here. Notice that up here we had to move the 51 over to the other side. Notice here the constant is already over there. So I'm going to rewrite this. okay, with the idea that we're going to complete the square here, just like we did above. Okay, so I'm going to factor the 8 out. We get x squared plus 2x. We don't know what that is yet, but the 8 has been factored out of that number, whatever number that turns out to be. Okay. Now we're going to change forms. So again, looking at the vertex form, we're going to start off with a parentheses. Okay, then the x. And do you remember how to find the h value? Okay, the formula for finding the h value, we did it up here, but we take the little formula for finding h is b divided by 2. That's going to give us our h value. So half of 2 is 1. Okay, continuing on, we got parentheses, we have the square. Now at this point, we're going to square the 1. 1 times 1 is 1. That's going to go up in our blank. Now because we factored an 8 out of these three numbers, we have to multiply it back in to see what number we need to add over here or subtract. So again, take that 8, multiply it times the 1. 8 times 1 is 8, so that's the number that gets added over here. Because we added 8 here, so we're going to add 8 here to keep it balanced. Gives us 50. So we just completed the square. Notice up here, we didn't factor any number out. So when we squared the 7, we got 49 plus 49, so we plus 49 over here. We didn't have to put any number back in. We didn't factor anything out. We just added 49 on the left, so we added 49 on the right. Whereas here, okay, we factored out an 8 out of these three terms, so we have to multiply it back in, and then that number is what gets added over here if it's positive. So solving this, okay, so we get x plus 1 squared equals 50 over 8. I feel like I did something wrong. I don't know why. Well, let's just keep going. We'll see what happens. Square root both sides. Okay. We're going to have x plus 1 equals. Now, when you square root a fraction, we can, first of all, we can simplify this fraction if possible. So 2 goes into 50 25 times. 2 goes into 8 4 times. Okay? It's always a good idea to simplify. It's going to make it easier. This is the square root of 25 over the square root of 4. Okay, the square root of 25 is 5. Square root of 4 is 2. Don't forget your plus and minus on the front. We just took the square root of these two numbers, so we need the plus and minus. Then we're going to subtract the 1 on both sides. So let's get our answers. 5/2 minus 1. Well, let's change that 1 to 2 over 2. So we had a common denominator. So 5/2 minus 2 over 2 is 3/2. That's one solution. And then negative 5/2 minus 2/2 is negative 7/2 for our second solution. So again, completing the square. Re-watch the video if you need to, and I hope you guys are having a good night.